This is the Lessons in Positivity videocast. Here's your host, Scott Peterson.
Hello again from the Positive Athlete Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. This week's episode is dedicated to softball, where I had a chance to catch up with one of the country's most decorated softball players of all time, Cat Osterman. Cat was ready to lead Team USA to an Olympic gold this summer in Tokyo, but the cancellation of the Olympics put that on hold for at least another year. I talked to Cat about that disappointment and how she's processing this disruption of a dream, like many of you have experienced with the cancellations of your own sports. Later on, we talked to Kelli Maher, a high school softball player from New York who spent one of her summers doing random acts of kindness in communities around the country. You're going to love her story. But first, here's our conversation with Team USA softball superstar Cat Osterman on this week's Lessons in Positivity. With us this afternoon is four-time All-American softball player at University of Texas, two-time Olympian, and one of the most beloved figures in USA softball history, Cat Osterman. Cat, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I understand that this whole journey you are on and continue to be on could have been cut short at the age of 6. After your first year, you decided you really didn't want to play softball. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I played softball early on at like age 6, and actually the little league I was joining had just branched off from another league. So I lived out near Bear Creek, and they had originally been partnered up with a league in Katy, which that's about 30 minutes apart. And so they had both just split, and 1st through 5th graders were on the same team. And it was kids pitch. So when you're playing for the first time at 1st grade and a 5th grader's slinging a ball at you, it's not too fun. I don't think I got very many hits, and pretty sure I spent a lot of time in the outfield, probably coming in with pockets full of flowers or butterflies, and not a lot of softball experience. And having grown up in a family that pretty much we were outside playing all the time, basketball runs in my family, as far as my dad and his brothers and just my cousins and I grew up playing it. So I wasn't active enough for me. So after that 1st grade year, I wanted nothing to do with it. And actually I got into soccer at the same time. And so soccer took over my life for a little bit of time, for a little while, until about 4th grade. So about 3.5, 4 years. And then in soccer, they put me in the goal. They would have to bribe me to stay in the goal for both halves because I was good at it, but I hated it. I wanted to be out running around. So I think after about 3.5, 4 years, I finally said, I don't want to play goalie. If I'm going to be a goalie in soccer, I want to find something else to do. And then that's when my dad suggested softball for a second time. And again, went back to Little League, the same Little League, but obviously this time 1st through 5th graders weren't on the same team. And due to Little League rules, they needed a pitcher at one point in time, and I volunteered just to try it and fell in love with it from that day. So, I think I love the game of softball, don't get me wrong, but I completely fell in love with pitching way more than I did the game at first. And so, I guess you could just kind of say the rest is history.
Yeah, I understood you struck the first kid out. And so after that, then it kind of set the expectation that, kind of like this spark.
Yeah, it was one of the first couple hitters. If it wasn't the first one, it was one of those 2 or 3 in that inning. But I struck somebody out. And the funny part was that was probably about in 5th grade. So I started playing again in 4th grade, started pitching in 5th grade. And my English teacher or language arts teacher had just given us a paper that we had to write on your gift. And when I came home, my mom's like, well, you're a good soccer goalie, because I was still playing both at the time. And I was like, it's a gift. You have to like gifts. Like I can't write about being a goalie. I don't like it. And then after I pitched for the first time, I came home screaming, I found my gift. And I'm like, great, kid. One inning under your belt, and you're all of a sudden pretty sure that you found what you love to do. But again, I guess something hit home, because obviously I never left the circle after that.
Well, we're all glad you found that gift. There's a lot of kids that feel a lot of pressure, even early on, to win versus get better. And I know you have some feelings about those two, trying to balance the two of those, and this pressure to feel like, I've got to win every game, I got to strike everybody out. Talk a little bit about your philosophy relative to those things.
Well, I mean, I think at a young age, it's about development and learning the game. I know as a pitcher, too many times you see pitchers, especially learning 4, 5, 6 pitches at such a young age. And there's no need to if you don't know how to control your fastball and your changeup. You're not going to be better off, throwing 5 pitches if you can't control the main 2. But as an athlete as a whole, like the whole part of enrolling your kids in sports is to give them something to do, keep them active, and let them have fun. And when you chastise them or get in the car and berate them because they lost that day, it doesn't make it fun anymore. And I think, like I said, I played multiple sports growing up. I've tried just about everything, other than field hockey and lacrosse. I think those are probably the only 2 I have not popular down here in Texas. So I never took a dabble in those. But no matter what, when we got in the car, if we lost, it was okay, what did we learn today? It wasn't anything about it's your fault or you should have done this or you should have done that. And I think at a young age, we have to let kids enjoy the game and grow in the game and not worry about whether you win or lose. Now, do I think there's a certain point? Yeah, like, as we recruit kids when I'm in college or at the college level, you need kids who know how to win. And have that gut that want the ball or want to be up at bat with the game on the line and they know how to be successful. But nobody's life depends on whether you win or lose, to be honest. At the end of the day, it's still just a game. Even those of us that play it professionally and continue on, it's still just a game. Obviously, professional athletes get paid to be successful, but it's still just a game. Our life is not dependent at the end of the day because we won or lost a game. So I think for kids growing up, let them have fun. And obviously, the more fun they have, you'll start to see they work harder if it's something they truly become passionate about. But if it becomes a job at age 10, by the time they're going to school, they don't want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. We were talking to John Smoltz, Hall of Fame pitcher from the Atlanta Braves, and he was talking a little bit about, from the pitching standpoint, and mound presence, especially when you make a good pitch and somebody in the field makes an error, and that your body language relative to how that player did. When you're recruiting players, what's your philosophy on that, and how you deal with those kind of disappointing moments at the time, but they're at the same time could mushroom into other problems?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime someone makes an error, there's obviously a level of disappointment. So you see most players, that like the deep breath exhale is like, oh gosh, here we go. But it's about how you interact after that. And I think athletes just have to learn that, the ball is going to find whoever's starting to get into the pit. As soon as you start that downside, the ball finds that person over and over. And so one of my favorite stories in this realm is when I was playing professionally and I had Madison Shipman playing behind me. She played at University of Tennessee, stud player, All-American. I mean, she's great. And she made 1 or 2 errors in a game, but one of them came towards in the later innings as the game was close, and she made the error, and I called time and I called her to the circle. And after the game, she told me, she was like, I thought you were going to just lay into me. And all I did was put my glove over my face and say, I need you right here because the ball's going to come to you. It's going to find you right now, and I know you can make this play, so as soon as it comes to you, I need you to make that play. Now, I don't remember if the ball actually went to her after that, but, she was ready for the competitive side of me to come out and yell and scream and demand someone make a play, but we're all human, and I think you have to remember that. And a lot of times it is pitchers that get disappointed that an error gets made, but you know what? At some point in time, you gave up a home run too, and your defense couldn't do anything about it. So it's a game of give or take, and we just have to look for players, and as we coach and as we're parenting, instill in players that it's about picking that person up, and it's about, okay, hey, we'll get the next one, because there's always is a next one. So it's never, the error is never the end of your playing days.
Right, and you have, and baked into the sport of baseball and softball is failure, so as a pitcher, it's a different type of thing than it is for a hitter. And so when you were coaching in softball at the collegiate level, how did you talk to your players about, they had to face people maybe not as good as you, but certainly some really good pitchers that they're going to fail. And so what do you tell them in terms of encouraging them or teaching them the sport?
Well, I think any athlete in baseball, softball, we play a game of failure, especially if you're a hitter. I mean, 3 out of 10 times, you're a pretty good hitter. 4 out of 10 times, you're really good. That means you're failing 6 times out of 10, and you have to be able to come back from that to be successful. And, you know, how many things in life are you good 4 out of 10 times, and you're pretty dang good. So it's a matter of keeping things in perspective too. You know, a lot of what we talk about is not the outcome of your at-bat, but the process of your at-bat. And again, 4 out of 10 times you're successful. That doesn't mean 6 out of 10 you struck out. I mean, you could hit a liner at the third baseman and you're still 0 for 1. So it's looking at the process of your at-bat. Was it a good swing? Did you see good pitches? Was it just a hard out? Like, that still goes in your favor. And pitchers, it's the same thing. I mean, pitching side, you don't play a game of failure as much. But at the end of the day, usually the win and loss is next to your name. I mean, that's why there's a winning pitcher and a losing pitcher. So you have to be able to learn from the losses. You have to be able to handle that that's going to be next to your name and not care, really. I mean, you can pitch 3 great games and still lose, depending on if your team doesn't score or 1 error's made, or you happen to only give up 3 hits, but 1's a home run. I mean, there's just so many things that can factor in. And I think, you know, the biggest thing is we have to work on the process. We have to work on how we frame things to ourselves. That's the biggest thing, is don't look at the loss. If you pitched absolutely terrible for 5 innings, then that's one thing, but you and your coach are probably going to sit down and discuss that. But just because you got the loss that day doesn't mean you didn't do your job. Sure, it goes next to your name, but it's still a team sport. So I think a lot of what we talk about is the process and making sure you put in all the work that you can to be prepared. And then once you're prepared, you go compete and kind of let the game take care of itself.
Kind of turning the conversation to disappointment. And there are different kinds of disappointments, some that are in your control and some that are outside your control. And one of the things a lot of the kids are going through right now is the fact that many of their summers, which they were planning on a big travel or club softball season, has been taken away from them. You're no stranger to this disappointment, because the IOC took some Olympics away from you, and COVID-19 hasn't exactly helped in terms of your return, your unretirement from softball to go back and play for Team USA in Tokyo. Talk about how you handle disappointment like that and compartmentalize it somewhere.
Well, I think there's the old cliche that you can only control so much, and you have to control what you can control. And obviously with coronavirus and all the delays and everyone trying to figure out what's next, we can only control what we put into every single day right now. And so, IOC, like you said, delayed the Olympics, and you can look at it one of 2 ways. It's either, I have to play for 12 more months, or, I get to play for 12 more months. And, I get to play for 12 more months. And for me personally, it might be a really good thing. I get another 12 months of game experience that I wouldn't have had if we were playing in July. But at the same time, there were plans in place for life to go on. But again, they always say, you want to make God laugh, make plans, because life always ends up changing and you have to adjust your plans anyways. So it's kind of, as much as I hate to say it, this is a lesson for young kids in real life. You can think something's planned, but it never is concrete. You have to be able to adjust. And I think the biggest thing that I've taken away and shared with people during this time has been not just controlling what we can control, but staying ready. If you truly love what you do, you're going to put in the work even right now at home, whether it means you're hitting into a front toss or soft toss and tee work every day, or if you're pitching in the driveway to a net. Personally, I only own up to 15-pound dumbbells, but I'm figuring out how to work out with those consistently, because I'm still not going to go to the gym right now just because I don't trust other people versus myself. I'll wait till private weight rooms are open. But I'm finding ways to get what I need in, and we're on week 8, I think now. And I can tell you I've only skipped 2 days of working out, and that's just because they were 2 days that my body said, time out, we've got to slow down a little bit. And sometimes you have to listen to your body, but there's no reason for anyone to not be able to put in work or continue to find a way to do something. If you truly love playing and love what you do, You find a way, and I always say, if you love it, then you love the process. And personally, I love the hard work. I love when it gets hard and you have to push harder and figure out what to do. So this has been a lesson even for me. And okay, it's hard work in the fact that we don't have everything we're used to having, but what are we going to do in order to keep in shape and keep ready?
If you could go back and give Cat Osterman, the middle school, high school player, some advice, what would you tell her?
Oh, be a better teammate. To be honest, I mean, I think middle school I wasn't necessarily a bad teammate, but I think in high school I just got so consumed with my pitching and making sure my performance was good enough all the time that I didn't always, I wasn't always the most considerate about teammates. And not that I was a bully by any means, but I just was a little bit self-centered probably, and could have found ways to connect and interact with my teammates more. But it's also interesting because I look at it and I think I was a completely different type of teammate in softball than I was basketball, which is probably because I was a little bit more talented in softball than some of my teammates than I was in basketball, where I was kind of average. But I think I would have put more emphasis on being able to just being able to be a better teammate and be there, be there and make connections a little bit more than I did.
Kat, do you think that positivity is a choice?
Oh, by all means. You wake up every day and you can choose how you look at things. And every time you come into a hard situation, you get to choose how you deal with it. And it's not always the easiest choice, but it's definitely a choice.
Well, thanks for spending time with us. This is great advice. I hope not only the young female athletes that are watching this, but the male athletes, that everything you said is very, makes sense for any athlete of any time or any sport playing. So thanks for spending that time with us, Kat. And we wish you the best of luck getting ready, and we'll be rooting for you in the 2021 Olympics now.
Thank you so much.
Our next guest is Kelli Maher, who's featured on page 212 in our book, The Positive Athlete, 100 Inspirational Stories of High School Student Athletes. Kelli and her father toured the country a couple years ago with the simple idea of performing random acts of kindness in schools and communities that were hurting because of gun violence. We hope you'll be inspired by Kelli's selfless actions as an idea to help your own schools and communities. She's up next on Lessons in Positivity. Joining us from South Hempstead, New York is a winner of one of our softball awards, Kelli Maher. And Kelli, so good to see you again. How are you and your family?
We're good, thank you. During this rough time, I know, but thank God everyone's healthy and happy right now, so we're doing good.
Well, your family's pretty special, and you guys have done a lot of things in the community, and not just in New York, but all across the country. And it kind of starts out with this love for people. Your family just seems to love people, and that's translated obvious to you. Tell us a little bit about that, and how that kind of transpired between you and your dad and your friends and things like that.
Yeah, so ever since we were younger, me and my brothers and even our friends, if we were ever going somewhere with my dad or like something like that, he would always make sure to bring a lesson of how to, treat people the way you want to be treated, or make sure to like do a random act of kindness for someone, or if you see someone not doing so well and like you just do something nice for them, it makes their day. And ever since we were younger, he's been instilling that into us. And as we've gotten older, we have really taken that to heart.
That's awesome. And a couple of years ago, you guys took a trip down to Texas and Louisiana, and you can always read more detail about this in the book. She's on page 212 in the Positive Athlete book. But Kelli, talk a little bit about that trip. Give people a sense for what you guys did.
So when we went down to Texas, we went down to Santa Fe, Texas, where the high school shooting happened. And there we did random acts of kindness in honor of all of the kids who unfortunately lost their life, and also some of the teachers. So that trip was just beyond incredible. the things that were happening during this trip were incredible. The people that we met, their stories were unbelievable, and just hearing all of those things and being in high school at the time, hearing that stuff really makes you think like this could happen to anyone at any time, anywhere, and definitely feeling a lot more grateful after doing that trip and hearing those people's stories and how some survived, how some of their friends didn't, and if they were here or there and saw things. It's very traumatic, and for them to express those feelings to us, we were also very grateful for that, so they could get that off of their chest, and it was really incredible.
So you were really able to kind of be there for them, allow them to talk about it, because those were traumatic experiences. Kelli, talk about some of the people that you've had a chance to meet in those situations, and you had a chance to kind of be around those folks that had been traumatized. Did you meet anybody in particular that had a good story?
So actually I met two people, but I'll start with Wesley. So we actually met Wesley when we were going to do a random act of kindness at a baseball field, and he actually came up and recognized us first, and he was explaining to us how he, at the time, was a senior in high school, and unfortunately he was in the school when the shooting took place. So he said that when he was roaming the halls and he was about to step into the bathroom, he met face to face with the kid, and all he did was say his name. He said, "Hey, Nick," and then the kid just walked away, and he did what he did, and unfortunately took those kids' lives. But Wesley then ran back to his classroom and then told his teacher what was going on and immediately started getting everyone out of the school. So that was one. And then this other kid, Marcus, we actually met him when he was playing basketball outside when we were doing a random act of kindness at a park. And so he had a really rough time with this because he lost one of his really, really good friends that was in the closet in one of the classrooms, and which the kid unfortunately did that horrible act. And so he lost his friend. His friend was actually the one holding the door closed to make sure everyone else in that closet would not get hurt. And so that really traumatized him, and we've been keeping in touch with some of them to make sure they're doing okay, and he seems to be doing a lot better ever since we spoke, and that was almost like maybe 2 years ago. So the impact that we just make by listening and trying to understand and giving ourselves to them, like, they really, really do appreciate it.
When tragic things happen, kids sometimes don't know what to do, especially a high school kid. And a lot of times I think what you're saying is a lot of times people just need to have somebody to talk to. And just need to, you don't need to fix their problem. It's just, somebody to talk to. Is that the experience that you've had?
I mean, definitely. Like, some of these kids really just need someone to lean on, just for you to listen to them and try to make you, understand what they're going through. And sometimes people just don't take the chance to listen, but try to give too much advice first before they listen to their story and what happened to them. And just the release for them of telling their story, like, that's a huge weight off their shoulders.
Well, Kelli, we think we need to clone you and put you in all the high schools in America, because you are truly a positive athlete. We were so proud to honor you last year as our most positive softball player in New York, and I know you got a great scholarship from Delta out of that. And so if you'd like to read more about Kelli's story, then go to page 212 in the Positive Athlete book, and you'll get a chance to get a little bit more detail about Kelli's thoughts. Kelli, thanks so much for spending time with us today, and good luck, and thanks for all of the random acts of kindness you do every day.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
We're so proud of our two guests today, Cat Osterman and Kelli Maher. They're both great examples of positive athletes and the kind of role models all of us should try to be. Again, you can read more about Kelli's story in our Positive Athlete book, which is available right now by visiting positiveathlete.org. You can also view previous Lessons in Positivity episodes in the video section of our website, featuring other professional and Olympic athletes. We'll see you next time here on Lessons in Positivity.